A grid is already formed here at Snetterton for race 2 of the weekend in the Ginetta Junior Championship. It is the 11th round of the championship, and it was a great race yesterday that was largely dominated by Fred Green. He didn't lead quite all the way. For a whole half a lap, he was behind Rocco Coronel, who had done his usual trick of trying to hang back, timing it to perfection before he pushed towards the end. In the end, though, it was Fred Green that won because he was able to wriggle his way back into the race lead, and as Rocco Coronel lost the lead, so what happened was that Scott Lindblom nipped up into second place. Coronel fought back, and they had a drag race to the line. So it was very, very close between the two of them. This is how it looked. Fred Green in the white car, set for a second win of the season. Tom Coronel and Scott Lindblom together. It is the car of Coronel nearest to us, and as they came across the line, it was that close. Now, initially, the transponder said that Lindblom was ahead by 15 one-thousandths, and then everybody involved had a good close look at the pictures you've just seen, and it was indeed agreed that Rocco Coronel was ahead, and the beam time data showed by 1,000. So when we left you yesterday, we were talking about Scott Lindblom in second place, but it was indeed confirmed ultimately as Rocco Coronel to take second position. And he is the championship leader, having had 7 race wins. Fred Green then on pole position, the nephew of Jamie Green, former Formula 3 Euro Series champion, DTM race winner for Mercedes and for Audi, and Fred's father, Nigel Green, Brisker Formula 1, Formula 2 stock car world champion. But Fred winning the Ginetta Scholarship, coming into circuit racing. The Greens have done a bit of karting, of course, in their time, but now the Nigel Green side of the family going into circuit racing. Fred, part of Jamie Green racing in karting for the last couple of years, along with Jamie's sons, and now making this switch to car racing. Whereas Max Cuthbert is the driver alongside him on the outside of the front row of the grid. 6th in the championship. He went well yesterday to finish in 4th place, did Max. He had a podium at Donington in the 3rd race of the season. He had a podium in the 3rd race at Oulton Park as well, round 9. So he's been a regular front runner, but not yet got himself up to the 2nd or indeed top step of the podium. Track temperature this morning, another hot day, 23.2 degrees. And the grid is complete. The cars, I think, are going to be released very shortly onto what is a long formation lap, nearly 3 miles around the Snetterton 300 circuit. And now the safety car, as it is, accelerates away. The Ginetta G56. Fred Green then sets off behind. And Rocco Coronel, the son of Tom Coronel, great Dutch GT and touring car driver and very loquacious character. He accelerates away from the inside of the 2nd row. Everybody, of course, in this championship in the same sort of car, Ginetta G40, with the regulations carefully policed to make sure that these aren't overly powerful for young, teenage, inexperienced drivers. 14 to 17, the age bracket in which you can take part in this. 100 brake horsepower, sealed engines, and very competitive racing it has always generated. So for race 2, based on the 2nd best time, Fred Green is on pole position, Max Cuthbert with him at the front of the grid. Rocco Coronel, the championship leader, lining up 3rd. Alfie Slater, younger brother of Freddie, son of Adrian, former Porsche racer, he lines up 4th on the grid ahead of Scott Lindblom. And then Joseph Smith, who went well in yesterday's race early on. Colin Cronin comes from a good racing and rallying family, the Irishman. He's 7th on the grid. George Proudford-Nalder is next up, having had some bodywork damage and retiring in the end from yesterday's race. 9th, Ethan Carney, who was on the grass a bit yesterday. And the other Ethan Lennon, is alongside, ahead of Harry Bartle. And then Felix Livesey, who is going to start 12th on the grid. Starting 13th is Ravi Lake, and alongside him is Jarrett Clark, number 55. Then Felipe Rice and Joshua Watts in number 22. Katrina E is going to be next on the grid, starting 17th, ahead of Andrew Robinson. Torin Byrne, one to watch maybe today. At the very back yesterday, but a bit further up today, 19th, ahead of Emilio Del Grosso, who has a 5-place grid drop for causing a collision. Next on the grid, it is Raul Zunzaran, the Spanish driver, looked after by WTCR champion Michael Ashkiner, and then Noah Young in number 95, ahead of Henry Cameron and Matthew Chiwara. The back row of the grid, Joshua Henry and Max Murray. So even though there are quite a number these days of junior categories available, good to see Ginetta Junior racing in such strong health. And this is the view from on board with Raul Zunzaran, who had a grassy moment early on in the race yesterday, but fought back to 12th place. The Ginetta Junior Championship, which has a very long history now, 20 years we're celebrating. Toby Newton was the very first champion. The likes of Charlie Robertson, who's racing in British GT, Jack Mitchell racing in British GT today, they are previous champions as well. Alfie Slater's brother Freddie was the champion 2 years ago. Others to have taken the title, Tom Ingram, for example, and also the likes of Tom Leben, Aston Miller, Josh Rowledge, Ethan Jeff Hall in recent seasons. You don't have to be a champion, though, to earn recognition in Ginetta Junior racing. Just ask Lando Norris or Isaac Hadjar, because both of them have raced in Ginetta Juniors. Isaac Hadjar did the Winter Series 1 year. Lando Norris was the rookie champion in 2014. Another rookie champion, Cian Jewis, who's on the British GT grid today. And Zach O'Sullivan, another who was a rookie champion. So too Louis Foster, who of course went on to great things racing in America. And then there's also been the Winter Series that's had a variety of star names, like Seb Prio winning that championship as well. So it's had a very, very long, very successful history. Long may it continue, because it has proved to be a really, really good way of getting drivers out of karting, teaching them about racecraft. It's always been at high-profile race meetings, and whether you want to go the single-seater route into F4 or the GT route, it manages to tick all the boxes. So Ginetta continuing to do a great job with this series. And up towards the grid then comes Fred Green. So the white car that won yesterday will have alongside Max Cuthbert in that black and pink livery, and then Rocco Coronel in the first of the cans of Red Bull, if you like. The sister car in the similar colour scheme is going to start directly behind that of Scott Lindblom. Lindblom and Coronel both coming out of the R Racing stable, one of the more successful of the Ginetta Junior teams. Coronel number 23, and there is Scott Lindblom to line up behind. Revy Lake, number 83, will slot into place 13th on the grid. There in the right mix concrete backed car is Max Cuthbert, good to go. So they wait now until the last driver, Max Murray, is in place. It is 20 minutes, not a set number of laps. The flag goes out the first time the leader crosses the line. Once those 20 minutes have elapsed, the final couple of cars trickling into position. And with the breeze picking up a little bit, the flag's waving on the start and finish line. There is the grid poised, ready to go. The drivers in a moment will concentrate on that lighting gantry, and then to get race 2 of 3 underway. Recovery vehicle slots into place, the emergency vehicle at the back, the 5-second board now is shown. And so to get racing underway on day 2 here at Snetterton, the drivers look towards the lights, which go red now. When the lights go out, it will be blast off, and a good getaway is made by Fred Green. Coronel bogs down a little possibly there, and it means that Alfie Slater comes up to have a go at him as you go on board now with number 25, the car of George Proudford-Nalder, the Australian driver, as Fred Green leads. Max Cuthbert goes second then as they dive down towards Riches for the first time. Rocco Coronel third, and everybody tries to get through without drama on the first lap. Raul Zonzara, you're riding on board with here. Coming out of the corner, up the inside line goes Lindblom for the race lead. Cuthbert challenges Green, it doesn't work. Coronel gets slightly delayed. Green goes wide though, coming out of Wilson. And if he'd got about 2 lengths worth of a gap coming through the corner, it's mostly gone now as 1 or 2 run really wide over the weeds back onto the circuit. Lindblom there running at the head of the second wave, if you like, in 5th place. The dust settles in the background. The red car of Ethan Carney on the outside line. And this is the view from on board with Raul Zonzaran. Emilio Del Grosso just up the road ahead. He's made a pretty decent start as the leaders come down towards Agostini for the first time. 4 for the lead with Fred Green ahead. Max Cuthbert second, Rocco Coronel third, and then 4th in the grey and green car is Alfie Slater looking to go the long way around on the outside line. It doesn't work. Ethan Carney's off the road again. Revy Lake bouncing back onto the track as well there as the leading quartet tries to break away. They could do with working together on the opening lap, not squabbling, and Fred Green leads as Slater has a big late dive up the inside of Coronel. There's another one on the grass. Ethan Carney again, back onto the tarmac, doesn't lose too much ground. He slots in behind Del Grosso, who's lost out, look to number 3 of Zonzaran as the cars then head up towards Bentley Straight for the first time. Everywhere Zonzaran wants to go, there are cars. Cars to the left of him, cars to the right of him, cars right behind him, and accelerating now onto Bentley Straight. He might benefit from a double toe here if you can only find the room to use it, because he's got pretty much blocked in. Down towards the S's they go then. Zonzaran right on the back of Clark as the leaders come into the S's with Coronel going around the outside of Cuthbert into the first part, the inside for the second. Cuthbert gets run out wide, he's on the grass, and so up the inside first of all comes Slater, then Lindblom, look, in the other Red Bull car, he goes through, and also trying to get in on the act as well now is number 95, that's Noah Young. He tries to squeeze up the inside. So the net result of all that is that Cuthbert loses another place as well. Colin Cronin goes past him. So from second on the grid, it's going to be a pretty disappointing end to the first lap for Max Cuthbert, who has been well and truly shuffled back in the queue into what, 7th place? Might be 8th in a moment as George Proudfoot-Nowler comes through. Yesterday with damage, the bonnet kept opening up after lap 1 contact, and it ended up with him retiring. So as the leader goes by, Fred Green starting to try and pull clear of Coronel. 7/10 of a second was the margin, but I suspect that'll soon disappear. Slater 3rd, Lindblom 4th, 5th is Noah Young, 6th then it is number 75, Colin Cronin, and then behind him in 7th place is Cuthbert. Little battle not to be last at the back there. Look, Cuthbert in the grey and pink car on the back of Cronin as they both try to fend off the challenge of Proudfoot-Nowler on the outside line, and succeed in so doing, but they get wider and wider coming off that Wilson hairpin, you can see. So the curve and indeed the grass creek behind increasingly seems to be part of the racing line. On board now, number 83, this is Remy Lake's car down towards turn 3 at Agostini. Floppy markers dispensed with there, you can see by the traffic ahead. Number 22 of Josh Watt gets run out wide onto the curb. So Green leads, and then it's almost everybody else in second place because there's a long line of cars all queued up for second place. This is Lake's view. Torin Byrne ahead, and then whoops, a little bit of contact, bit of leaning against 22 there. So Josh Watts for the Tim Gray Motorsport team run out wide, and Lake will go through, heading up towards Hamilton. Just kissing the tyre stack ahead of him there was Torin Byrne, and he ends up going a little bit wide. And coming off the grass, Josh Watts getting back onto the circuit. Now a little bit of leaning going on further back. 95, Noah Young, who's dropped a long way back in the pack, getting involved there with Emilio Del Grosso. So Fred Green leads the way, but now Coronel is on a mission. Now yesterday, he sat there for the bulk of the race, thinking he was going to time it right to the last lap and not give Green chance to retaliate, and it did not work. So today, he's on the attack much earlier, goes to the outside line for the first part of the S's, that's the inside line for the second part, and the Red Bull-backed driver goes through, and because Green is hung out to dry on the outside, Slater tries to get up the inside as well. That doesn't quite work, but Coronel now does hit the front as they come again through that long, fast sequence of Bombhole and Coram up towards the end of the lap. Green has got to try and fight back as another one goes grass cutting. It's like looking through the Kalahari Desert, it's so dry here, and somehow through the dust storm the car gets back onto the circuit. We'll unravel who that was in a moment. This is George Proudfoot-Nowler's view. 8th at the start of the lap. Coronel will lead as they come up towards the timing line, but this is a part of the racetrack where Green can get a tow and may be able to challenge on the run towards riches. So Coronel 23, 51 is Green then. They could not be closer as they come across the line. Green almost pushing Coronel to turn 1. Alfie Slater goes to the outside line. Green stays in the wheel tracks all the way into the corner. Slater right with them in 3rd place. Lindblom right there in 4th. In 5th place now, it is number 15 of Josh Smith. So 5 for the race lead. Another one on the grass in the background. Coronel leads. Slater on the outside line to go 2nd. But the danger is he's hung out to dry here. However, if he can stand his ground then in that grey and green livery, Alfie Slater is going to have the inside line coming down towards turn 3. Fred Green can't afford to let places go like this, and he's lost another one. So he led at lap 1, and now on lap 3 he is down in 3rd place. And he's under attack as well from Scott Lindblom, who was right on his tail. Slater goes defensive to cover off Green, but they can't afford to let Coronel get away like this. Side by side for second. Slater on the inside, Green on the outside, and Lindblom's going to have a go, and he gets right into the side of Green, turns him around. That was brutal, and Fred Green does a complete 360-degree spin, tries to find a gear and get going. But I think Scott Lindblom is going to have a case to answer there. That was decidedly robust, and Fred Green just biffed around in the middle of the corner. He's got going again. So he's down the order, and there's more contact as Cuthbert gets into the side of Felix Livesey's car, that was, number 31, and that gets scuttled out wide. Torin Byrne's going to get ahead. Fred Green is being warned about track limits, which seems a little harsh, given that he's just been turned around through no fault of his own. Let's have another look. So Slater in the green and grey car on the inside. Have a look at Lindblom. He gets up the inside. Fred Green just gets driven into. Scott Lindblom sort of unwound the lock, straight into the back of Fred Green, turned him around, and that is going to drop the erstwhile race leader, indeed the winner of yesterday's race, way down the order, and is going to put him on the back foot as well for race 3, because the finishing order of this race sorts out the grid. So it's a kind of double whammy, really, for Fred Green. He's got to try to fight back as best he can. Meanwhile, Coronel and Slater, the leading pack, they got away while everybody else was scattering around the spinning Fred Green. The rather aggressive Lindblom then is in 3rd place, and behind him is Smith. So you've got 2 pairs, and then the next wave of cars coming through pretty much en masse. So we'll see where Green has dropped to. 16th is the answer. So from here on in, he's trying to rebuild the race and also rebuild a grid position for this afternoon. Coronel to Slater, a 10th as they came across the line. Number 3 there in the middle of it all. Ramsel Zaran trying to make a move if he can find the gap on the inside going up towards turn 1. Fred Green 16th as he went through. This is George Proudfoot-Nalder. He was 10th when they crossed the timing line. There's absolutely no guarantee he's going to be there by the next corner. So the race leaders head up towards the Wilson hairpin, and there on the inside line is a very cross Fred Green, their number 51, trying to get himself back up the order. He's got 12 minutes in which to salvage something. But Scott Lindblom surely is going to be looked at for that incident. At the back of the pack is the car of Katrina E, the Tim Gray Motorsport one. That's falling away a little bit. The race leaders then still nose to tail as they make that run again down towards Agostini. So turn through the left-hander. This is where we have the drama of a lap ago that, of course, did enable the top 2 to get away as others were scattering through the traffic. Revy Lake, meantime, still involved in a big battle. More contact, another spin. Around goes Josh Watts, number 22. Looked as though there was damage on that right rear corner. Yesterday's race was hard but fair. Today's been a bit more fractious. Maybe they don't like getting up early, these teenagers, but either way, it's been a rather destructive morning for some. 3 wide in the mid-pack, coming up towards the right-hander of Oggies, and the move made successfully there by Jarrett Clark. Wide, in contrast, goes Emilio Del Grosso, and he's going to lose 2 places. Gets back onto the road, only just ahead of Henry Cameron in the Fox Motorsport car, the white and blue and orange car there, number 11. And being warned about track limits now is Ethan Lennon. And the safety car is on track. Safety car has just been deployed, and that's the reason why. So 22, which is the car of Josh Watts, stranded. He gets out, so it looked as though it was broken rear suspension. And with the car unable to be moved, you can't have marshals going trackside with the race live, even on a long lap. But therefore, the race has to be neutralised. So the safety car called. And all of this coming around about halfway. Now, this kind of hinders Coronel in the lead because it puts everybody up in a queue behind him. There you can see the broken right rear corner on Josh Watts' car. It helps Fred Green a little bit because with everybody bunched up ahead, he might be able to gain more places in a shorter space of time on the resumption of the race, depending, of course, on how many minutes of racing we actually get in. So up to the timing line they come. Coronel, Slater, the top 2. Let's try and work out what happened to Watts. Comes into the corner. Whether there'd been earlier contact, hard to see, but it didn't look as though it was a big whack there that broke the car and turned him around. But the right rear wheel parting company, and out of the race then goes the car of Josh Watts, and of course, therefore, the race now being neutralised, safety car deployed, and that means that the drivers all slow down, make their way around the circuit behind the intervention car. Shouldn't take that long, hopefully, to move that out of the way, but it will just reduce the amount of racing mileage a little. So there is the safety car making its way up towards the Wilson hairpin. And there is the car in question. So being retrieved, Josh Watts' car. So frustration, certainly. Yesterday, 13th, but today a retirement. I think, actually, this is the first intervention of the safety car all weekend. We had a couple of red flags in a qualifying session yesterday, but in terms of all the races so far, safety car's not been overly busy. So all of this nibbling into the available time. Race 3 is the one based on the results of this race. And it is Tom Coronel then watching his son Rocco on target perhaps for an 8th win of the season. Tom's been a big supporter of Rocco's racing. The Coronel family from good racing stock as well. Grandfather Coronel, big Alfa Romeo fan. So Tim and Tom, his 2 sons, born minutes apart. Tim Alfa and Tom Romeo Coronel. But the Alfa Romeo references, I think, stopped in Rocco's case. He is the race leader, and it's been a great season for him. It started off the championship with Alfie Slater winning at Donington, and then the other 2 at Donington, the 3 at Silverstone, and the first 2 at Oulton Park, all won by Rocco Coronel. 7 wins on the bounce. Fred Green won the last one at Oulton and the first one here, so 2 on the bounce, albeit 1 in May and 1 in July. And right now, Fred Green 14th when the safety car was deployed. He managed to gain a couple of places, and he's on the attack again. But 7 3/4 minutes, and this is where a long lap kind of doesn't help you under a safety car, because it just takes so long to get around under a controlled speed. Now, hopefully, if that car can be moved into the paddock, because on this lap there's an access point near where it came to rest at Agostini, we might be able to go back racing. But as you can see, it's still taking a long time just to lift the car up. So it's not a million miles away from being off the circuit. But the sad thing here is it looks like we're going to have yet another lap behind the safety car. So the field goes down Bentley Straight. Safety car lights are flashing, and when they are extinguished, that's the indication that we can go back to racing. But you can't make a sort of spur decision at the last corner. You've got to give drivers a little bit of notice to get ready for the resumption. Now, there's a car with some damage, as you can see, with a rather droopy front. It is, though, the one that's done the fastest lap. It is number 15 of Joseph Smith. Whether that's doing much for the aero, discuss. Need to find out when the fastest lap was done relative to when the damage was done, but it looks a bit lopsided. As long as that bodywork stays on, shouldn't be affecting life too much. And 6th place, Joseph Smith runs at the moment. Another driver with sports car aspirations. Right, thankfully, on the back of the flatbed now is the car of Josh Watts. But we are going to have to do another lap because this one is nearly at an end. So 6.5 minutes and counting, down towards turn 12 they come. Safety car will go around. I reckon we might end up with just one racing lap at the end of all of this, because the clock is ticking. Maybe once that recovery vehicle is off the circuit, the safety car pace can be increased in the knowledge that there's nothing else out on the track that needs to be negotiated. There, number 3 is the MKH Racing entry of Raul Zunzaran. His father has a kart rental business not far from the circuit of Navarra. And it was there that Raul started racing. You're on board with Zunzaran now as he comes over the timing line, still looking at the safety car lights and boards and flags. So the race interrupted, and we've got 5.5 minutes on the clock in this second race. Now, this is all kind of now swinging the pendulum back in favour of Coronel, with fewer racing laps to have to defend the lead, and hurting Fred Green with fewer laps in which he can make places. The field coming up towards Wilson. 5 minutes to go, and that last lap under the safety car was 4 minutes and 5 seconds. So as I say, I think we're going to get one racing lap, and that's your lot. That's the stricken car that triggered this interruption, number 22, and there's the access point back to the paddock. So the road is just about clear now. So the lights should be able to be extinguished this time, therefore we can go racing. And there the cars pouring their way out of turn 3, coming out of Agostini, sorry, out of Palmer, up towards Agostini. And with the road clear, we await confirmation that the safety car will be in this time. So there you can see 23, the race leader, Rocco Coronel. Like so many, having started in karting, then switching to cars for this season. There you've got that battered car of Joseph Smith. And this is Raul Zunzaran getting himself ready for the resumption of the race. George Cranford-Nalder ahead. Yellow flag still waved. Safety car in this lap, confirmed. So we will go racing this time around. Look back from the Australian George Cranford-Nalder's car. Raul Zunzaran is behind him. And then it is Ethan Carney's red car. You can just see over the shoulder of Zunzaran. There it is, number 53. So we'll go racing at the end of this lap. The safety car will peel in. And we've got just under 4 minutes to go. If they're really quick, could they get a second lap in? The safety car has most definitely increased the pace now, and so if they can get up to the line with more than 2.5 minutes, then we are possibly good to get 2 laps. We'll see, but it is going to be touch and go, especially given that Coronel has now, as you can see, slowed the pace right down to therefore try to make sure that A, he controls the pace on the restart, and possibly to make sure that he only does 1 racing lap. I wonder whether he spent much time watching restarts in a certain Grand Prix a week ago. As long as he doesn't go and then slow, he can do what he wants, but once he accelerates, he's got to keep accelerating. So Coronel leads the way. Safety car in this lap. Safety car probably already parked, and safety car crew having a cup of tea. Coronel crawling. Right, we've got just under 3 minutes to go, and the fastest lap of the race is a 2:21.7. I think Coronel is trying to make sure that he's got one lap only in which he needs to think about defending. So if the team is on the radio to him, if the team have got the message across, then this is working well. Alfie Slater is there in second place. Now Coronel accelerates. So he tries to steal that march coming through Coram, and now down towards turn 12 then. So as he accelerates up towards the line, we need to see the amount of time left when they cross the beam relative to a lap time. And I think it's going to be the last lap because they've got 2 minutes 20 on the clock, 19, 18, 17. They're not at the beam yet. So through they go now with less than a lap time left in the race. Last lap then, and it's Coronel in the lead as they go down towards turn 1. So Coronel from Slater, from Lindblom. And what about Fred Green's chances? He's up the inside to get past Ethan Carney. So that's going to give him 13th place heading into Riches. Can he gain more before the end of the race? Slater, 2 wheels on the grass, up the inside, wide into the corner he goes, so Coronel gets the lead back. Slater sorts himself out. Lindblom now makes the attack, and through he goes into the lead of the race. So Lindblom benefiting from that skirmish between Slater and Coronel. Lindblom has not yet had a win in the championship this season. He might win on the road, but I still think he's going to be looked at for that contact early on with Fred Green. So as the cars now accelerate on towards the left-hander of Agostini, the other one to watch all of a sudden is Cronin, because the yellow car, look, is up into third place. Slater has dropped way, way back as Lindblom leads Coronel. Cronin is third. In fourth place, it's Harry Bartle. In fifth is that slightly crumpled car of Joseph Smith. Ethan Lennon is the next one to get squeezed out wide onto the weeds. I think the clerk of the course is going to have quite a busy hour or so after this, unravelling many of the incidents, and we're probably not done yet either. So the 2 cans of Red Bull, then up front, it is Lindblom ahead of Coronel, then third, Cronin, fourth, it is Bartle, fifth is Smith, and then a gap has opened up between that leading quintet and everybody else, with Max Cuthbert trying to get himself back into the top 6 on the last lap. Remember, Max, he was the one that was second on the grid and fell way, way back on the opening lap of the race, but he's kind of regrouped here as Coronel now tries to get the slipstream. He's after win number 8, and it's all gone against him really on this restart lap thanks to the zealotry of Alfie Slater. Coronel is ahead. Lindblom tries to brave it out with him, and he breaks late then, trying to get back into the draft. Gets back up on the inside line for part 1 of the S's, but he's on the wrong line for part 2. Looks for the undercut, tries to get it coming off the corner. Cronin sideways third. Bartle and Smith are right there as well. Coronel defends. Lindblom gets into the back. Bang, bang, knock, knock. Tries to encourage Coronel out of the way. Cronin gets involved with Lindblom, and almost then getting sideways was the Scandinavian driver. So 5 for the lead. Any one of these 5 could be the race-winning car, but I think Coronel might just have escaped by a length. Let's see. It's all, of course, with a slipstream to come into effect coming up the home straight. More contact. Lindblom bounces off Smith. Around he goes. Delays Cronin. Gets hit hard by Livesey. There's another car on the grass as well. And out of all of the mayhem, look, it is going to be Rocco Coronel to win, with a delighted Joseph Smith 6th at the start of the lap, 2nd as they come across the line. In 3rd place, Harry Bartle. 4th, Torin Byrne, who started 19th and finishes 4th. In 5th place was Max Cuthbert, and Fred Green got 6th. He was 14th at the start of the lap, and he got 6th place. A remarkable turn of events with so much drama on the last lap. Some of it was triggered here when Alfie Slater went up the inside. He was 9th, by the way. Scott Lindblom eventually made it home, but last, 25th, turning the car around and limping to the line. So that's going to put him at the back of the grid for the 3rd race, when in real terms he was fighting for the win on the last lap. So I suspect some replays might be coming in a moment just to unravel everything that happened at turn 12 on the last lap. But Lindblom tried to brake late, then there was more contact. Right, have a look at Lindblom then. Number 8, he's at the curb, bang, into the side of Smith. But actually, it's him that comes off worse. So Scott Lindblom goes into a spin. Number 15 of Joseph Smith escapes for 2nd place. Delayed is Colin Cronin in the yellow car, and wait for Livesey to arrive on the scene in the white car. Nowhere to go. Bang. And that's a hard impact into the spinning car of Lindblom. Now, there are others on the grass in avoidance of not entirely sure what, because all that's happened along in front of them. This is Raoul Zanzaret. He gets hit. That's why he ended up on the grass. So he's in a separate accident. There are more on the grass there. Ethan Carney in 53, and number 32 was involved in that as well, Ethan Lennon. So, cars everywhere, and this is the provisional result. Emphasis on provisional. Rocco Coronel first across the line from Joseph Smith and Harry Bartle third. Torin Byrne from 19th to 4th ahead of Max Cuthbert, and Fred Green's last lap 14th to 6th. 7th, Colin Cronin from George Proudford Nalder. Alfie Slater, who in a sense kind of triggered it with his moment at turn 2, he was 9th, and 10th, Revy Lake. At the very bottom of the order, the cars of Felix Livesey and Scott Lindblom did make it home, albeit 24th and 25th. So there are two quick drivers worth watching when we get to the third race for the Ginetta Junior Championship a little bit later on in the day. Their third race due to start at 2:20. But as I say, that's a provisional result, that's for sure. But some good racing in between the dramas, and a victory going the way then of a very happy Rocco Coronel. So, an 8th win of the season for Rocco Coronel, and we look at the best bits of the race, with a good start being made by Fred Green to lead into turn 1 from Max Cuthbert, Coronel 3rd and Alfie Slater in 4th. But Cuthbert's first lap was a tough one, and he would get shuffled back in the pack. He'd be out of the top 6 even by the end of the opening lap. Remy Lake was in dramas early on, battling with Ethan Carney, who ended up on the grass late likewise. They got back onto the circuit, but losing positions. Coronel found himself in a big battle with Cuthbert, with Slater, with Lindblom, and Fred Green leading the way. But his tenure of office wouldn't last long, because not only would he lose out ultimately to Coronel, but he'd also get mugged by a hard-charging Lindblom, the Swedish driver picking his way towards the front of the field. Coronel made the move for the lead at the S's, got through. Slater chancing his arm on the inside also to get ahead of Green. And as that battle for 2nd, 3rd and 4th continued, Slater got into 2nd place heading out of turn 3. At turn 4, Lindblom somehow contrived to get right into the side of Green and just knocked him out of the way. So Green spun to 16th, but he was able to rejoin for 6th place after a safety car, which is because of this. Suspension breakage for 22, Josh Watts, and it was a 1-lap restart, which was headed away by Rocco Coronel, with everybody else looking for a way to unsettle him. And Slater was the first one to challenge, but he got it all wrong on the grass heading up towards turn 2. So that put Scott Lindblom into the lead, but not for long. Coronel was able to fight back as they came through the S's, and the Dutch driver once again being able to use the slipstream to good effect and making the move on the outside for the first part of the S's, the inside for the second. Lindblom, though, was not going to give up without a fight as he fended off the challenge of Cronin, who was in 3rd place. And as the cars came down towards the last corner, Lindblom found himself on the wrong line, then got into the side of Smith, spun, delayed some, and was hit by Felix Livesey. And that meant that Rocco Coronel came through to win for the 8th time this season in the all-action Ginetta Junior Championship.